Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here with TigerTank12. However you call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Now this is kind of awkward, because this is not the first time that I'm making this video. I've basically just spent an hour recording several different gameplay sessions, and all of them had voiceovers. They were basically live commentary, live gameplay. Unfortunately, I had myself muted because I had internet classes or university classes previously, and I muted myself and I completely forgot that my microphone was still muted. So here we go again. But yeah, it would be a joy if the tank would be good, but unfortunately that's not something I can say. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the buffed T-34-2. This is the Chinese tier 8 medium tank, and I have just played a couple of games in it after the vehicle was supposedly buffed. And I can already say that the buffs just do not feel like they are good enough. I've played one game against tier 10 vehicles, which is basically the worst setup that can happen to you. And the other game, we were fighting against just tier 8 vehicles, where we actually had even a worse game than on the tier 10 game, which we actually won because our team was doing decent enough. But you know what? We're going to change some things because this is going to be a live action commentary gameplay. We're going to change some things. We have improved ventilations on this tank currently. I have no idea when I put that on, but I probably had ventilations lying around. Since you can see, I still have 4 more vents that I don't have on tanks currently. So yeah, I've probably just put that on at one time or another. We also have the gun rammer on this vehicle at the moment. We're going to be taking away the gun rammer, but we're going to be keeping the turbocharger. We're going to take vertical stabilizer on this tank, and we're going to take the gun laying drive, because this vehicle with its gun doesn't have the best gun performance. Its entire kind of gun performance, its entire gun handling is not very good. They said that they improved it, and you can feel a bit of an improvement, but it just doesn't go as far. I'm talking about patch 1.10.1. This patch has addressed some of the issues with a couple of medium tanks. The German Tech Tree line, the E50 line, and the Leopard Prototyp A, they have been overworked a little bit. The Prototyp A was nerfed. The E50M, the E50, and the Panther II and the Panther 88 have gotten a bit of a buff. For the Chinese tanks, we've gotten buffs on the T-34-1, T-34-2, WZ-120, and the 121. I think the most important changes are probably with the WZ-120 and the T-34 series, because these vehicles did not just get like a little bit more HP and better hull armor, they also got better gun handling, they also got some other stats changed. WZ, for example, the WZ-120 also has better speed. I think it's like 5 kilometers better than the previous patches. And these tanks really needed a buff. And that's why I'm so kind of disappointed at the moment that these tanks still kind of underperform. But maybe it had to do with my equipment, because previously I was running the T-34-1, and the T-34-1 was a vehicle that I enjoyed very much at tier 7, but I noticed that the T-34-2 was basically just a T-34-1 at tier 8 with a bit more HP. Not a lot of things did change, and we just got hammered away previously before I started playing this tank. After it was patched, you can see my win rate on this vehicle is only 45%. It's not that impressive. Now we're going to lose a little bit of DPM because we've taken out the gun rammer, we have taken out the vents, so we almost gain an entire second more for reloading on this vehicle. We do have brothers in arms, but you can see with the 100mm gun that we're running on this vehicle, we only get a rate of fire of 7.53 rounds per minute. Now, coupled with very, very bad gun depression of 5 degrees, that's something that only the very oldest tech trees have, because this tech tree is 8 years or 7 years old, they have very bad gun depression. Their rate of fire, their aim time, their dispersion is nothing too crazy. You can see the aim time now has been halved, so at least we get some better aim time. The dispersion is a bit better as well, but the vehicle still is not as impressive as other tier 8s. Especially the T-34, which was overworked, has gotten more armor. I think it's still a superior T-44, and this is just a kind of a cheap copy of the Soviet vehicles, right? So the survivability on this tank, it was increased by about 30 millimeters of frontal armor. So now you have an effective armor of maybe 200 millimeters on certain spots on the front part of the hull. But at the same time, if you're going up against tier 8 vehicles, tier 9s, they're going to go right through your hull unless you're on some kind of very awkward angle. So yeah, the gun is not that impressive. The armor is not impressive. The mobility is decent enough, but at the same time, it's not like it has something that kind of sets it apart from any other vehicle. So you're kind of in a very awkward situation where you have a vehicle that is not very good at anything, but is okay at some of the things, and then a little bit bad at some of the other things. Like gun handling wise, 5 degrees of gun depression is something that you'll feel very, very quickly when you're playing this tank. So having said that much, this is the buffed version of the tank. Imagine how bad this tank was before it was buffed a little bit. So we're going to be playing one game. This is going to be live commentary, live action gameplay. We're not going to be cutting anything out. And yeah, I'm going to see if we maybe only do one game, maybe 2 games. Because I want to kind of show you the main problems that I have with this vehicle. Now, we're playing in the very worst scenario that we can get. We're playing against tier 9s, tier 10s. And this tank does not perform very well against tier 8 vehicles. Just keep that in mind. So, yeah. What can we do on a map like this? This vehicle does not have a lot of gun depression, so going into the middle is probably not the best idea. It does not have a lot of armor, so going with the heavy tanks, we might be a second line support vehicle. But being able to pen those guys is a complete different story, because we only have 181 millimeters of pen and 241 on the APCR shells. So that is actually an option that I would rather not follow up with. So what does that leave us with? We can actually try to snipe, but our accuracy is not very good. Or we can go to the medium tank, you know, the mountain range right there, but we do not want to be the only one going there. So what I'm going to be doing right here is I'm going to be sitting back a bit, just for a little bit, and snipe the vehicles that are currently driving up the middle or are staying in the middle, like this ELC with 90, who just got completely wrecked by this Batchat 25T. Yeah, that was an example of terrible gun handling. Even though I have gun laying drive on this vehicle, even though I have the advanced rotation kind of equipment on it, this tank is not very accurate at all. That makes the entire experience rather unenjoyable, if I can say so much. And that makes me a bit sad, because I really enjoyed the T-34-1 and I thought that the T-34-2 would build on that. But it turns out that this vehicle is not going to be the best tier 8. It's probably one of the worst tier 8 medium tanks in the game. So actually they are keeping the middle very open. They only have a T-34-2, our counterpart on the enemy team out there. And he is probably in super awkward situations right there, because he's not going to be able to do a lot because of his lack of gun depression. So what we're going to be doing right here is we're actually going to move up into the middle. So you guys can see how bad this vehicle is if it needs any kind of gun elevation or gun depression. Well, the elevation is decent, alright, but the gun depression is probably what kills this tank in the end. The mobility, on the other hand, I mean, it's decent. The T-34 is almost as fast. I think it's faster. If I had the mobility, the turbocharger on that thing, I think I would be faster on the T-44, because the T-44 has, I think 51 kilometers per hour, while this vehicle only has 50. So it's 1 kilometer per hour difference. But yeah, unfortunately our team is not doing very well. So let's see if we can actually help them out. We do have a bit of angles right here. Didn't even try with the AMX over there. But I probably should take care of that AMX. We take him out. Take him out of the game. We're only able to engage these guys because this map has this very interesting design of this aircraft carrier where we actually can get some elevation on this vehicle, and it kind of is working against my entire argument that this tank has terrible gun depression. But yeah, it has very bad gun depression. This is gun elevation that we need, you know, to be able to do any damage right here. But you could see, like, this is a great vehicle if you can get behind the enemy, and this is a decent vehicle if... Okay, we're not going down there. This is a great vehicle if you are on the second or the supporting kind of side. That was kind of an unnecessary flip, but we were able to help our team out right there, and with the decent enough firing, or, you know, rate of fire, we were able to help them right there. He is running the 122mm gun, and he was just annihilated by artillery. How lovely. Okay, artillery is very interested in us. You can see that, oh boy, the tortoise is also shooting at us, but our accuracy is on the move, non-existent. I did not expect anything, but you can see that yeah, at least spotting wise we're doing okay. But right here, this is exactly what I mean with gun depression. If you had like 6 degrees of gun depression, you would be able to engage this M53-55. But unfortunately, we'd have to move on over the ridgeline to be able to shoot it. Oh, there goes the tortoise. Tortoise versus E3. What a battle. But to be fair, this game did not really represent, at least at tier 10, what would happen if this tank gets like ambushed or attacked by somebody. Because this tank certainly would not fare very well. It's, I don't know, anytime I'm trying to make a video, I'm trying to make a point, or I'm trying to deliver a point, my team is doing either really well or really badly. Doesn't matter. If I want to show that the tank is super great, I have a game, and it turns out that my team is doing very, very badly, and the vehicle just kind of gets eliminated by a shit ton of vehicles. So it is always a bit awkward when you're doing a live commentary session. But we're gonna take that. This is actually a very good kind of game with the complete damage, the damage total on this vehicle. That is almost 3,500 if you add it up together. And that is something that I'll take any time of the day. That is very good. But you can see that still, like, the damage that we dealt, not very good, 1,471. But we got like assistance of 1,739. So yeah, that's what we take right there. But if you were in another vehicle, for example, at tier 8 in a Progetto 46, Probably would have done a lot more damage, but that is also a tier 8 premium vehicle and thus should not be considered in a direct comparison to the T-34-2. But still, it remains that this vehicle has very, very awkward kind of stats and it doesn't excel in any kind of way. We're going to be playing one more game just to see if we can get some kind of tier 8 game, maybe a tier 9 game where it kind of comes apparent that this is a tank that can not do extremely well, that is going to be struggling in a lot of situations because of the lack of gun depression, because of the lack of armor, because of the lack of gun handling. So let's see. So how do you play this kind of map? Over there on the one line, this is usually where the medium tanks do line up and fight each other and shoot into the city. That's exactly where we're going. The vehicle does have 5 degrees of gun depression, so the best spot that you probably could go in this tank is either into the city where everything is flat, or you go to the field out on the 9 and 0 line. But if you do that, well, you're kind of exposed, you're very far out. You might not have the best view range because I had to put everything on this tank on getting the maximum out of its gun handling and its gun characteristics. So we're gonna go for the medium tank line, and it's very awkward that we have no other medium tanks coming with us. We have the Budask, which is basically a light tank, and a T-26-E4, which is basically a heavy tank, that are all going into the city or on the field. So we're stuck out here with some E25s. And there is our first potential target at E25. No, not E25, Eagle. And that shot was perfect center mass. Kind of surprised that that shot was perfect center mass, because I've been playing this tank now for a while, and I've seen the very first shot usually go all over the place. So, perfect center mass again, the KV-122. Nice hit on him. I think there are going to be more tanks that are going to be facing us or engaging us in a second. There's the Eagle, he's going over to the field. And you can see there's like all of our tanks are bunching up over there. Like our heavies, their heavies are bunching up. There's a Super Pershing that's moving up currently. I'm not sure what he's going to be doing. I don't think he's going to cross. Our E25 has started shooting at 229. But we do not want to move up any further, because if we engage the T29 on this kind of hilly terrain, we'd have to go all the way over there just to be able to shoot him. And that's when we are very exposed out there. They can just easily knock us out. So you just have to be very, very aware that this tank has certain weak spots that need to be like acknowledged. And if you acknowledge that you have certain weak spots that you cannot ignore, you'll have to play and adapt to those kind of situations. You'll have to adapt that this tank is not supposed to go into certain places where you need a lot of gun depression. You have to avoid those. This tank is doing very well if you can support something, if you are not the main target for anyone. That's where this tank can excel. And right here you can see that E25 is actually in trouble because he decided to move up that far. That's why we're going to help him right here. But you can see we have to move like over this little hill to be able to deal any damage. And obviously, because this Scorpion G just sits right next to us, we get hit by artillery. Massive hit right there. Now we know that there is a lot of stuff over here. There's a SU-130 PM, there's a T-44, and it's just a E25 and us. So what we're going to be doing right now is, at least what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to be falling back, because if they decide to push us, we do not have the gun depression to, you know, take pop shots at them when they're moving up. So we'll have to reposition somewhere where we can just utilize our gun and not have to worry about the gun depression. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be falling back. I did tell my E25 buddy that we're falling back, but he seems to be ignoring those calls. Well, it's going to be his funeral if he doesn't come over here. And now I'm kind of in need of the E25 to spot for me, because my spotting is not that good. I would have liked to put something on this vehicle that gave me the opportunity to run, I don't know, binoculars or something like that, but then I would have to sacrifice one of the very important gun equipments slots so that I can, you know, still be a medium tank and do damage. But if I lose them, I'm going to be looking very, very old very, very quickly. Okay, this E25 is wasting a lot of ammo. Oh, by the way, this tank only has 30 shells, so you can find yourself running out of shells in this tank. If it's a very long game, you can find yourself running out of shells because the lack of pen that you have on them, and because, yeah, your DPM is good enough to still, you know, put out enough shells if you really need to have, like, at least a bit of firepower or suppressive fire. So you just have to keep that in mind. This is now a very awkward situation because I'm thinking that the enemies are currently waiting for us to make a move on the one line. They're very cautious, they're not pushing. They still might think that we are at the same position that we have been previously. So what this E25 is doing right now is he's going into those bushes down there to see if he can spot any one of them moving up further, or, you know, shooting at anything from G1. As we're able to actually break through on the other side, and the Burask and I think, I'm not sure, what is that? The Super Hellcat have just flanked the enemy completely, which allows us now to actually move up, because the enemy is probably going to be falling back to base to defend, and that gives us the opportunity to strike in from behind. If we play it in any kind of clever form, we should be able to still do some serious damage right here. But we're probably going to be on our own, I think, for a bit. But you can see we're losing tanks now because they're pushing a bit too much. There's the SU-130 PM. And this tank actually has some decent turret armor. We're gonna finish him off with a high explosive shell. The Lorraine 40T has just awoken, and he has seen us, he's been spotted now. This is the ideal time for us to actually move up, because this Lorraine 40T is going to get shot at from basically everyone who's just looking over here. And now it's the Lorraine and the T-34 around this corner. So we know that right here, this is the T-44. And now we can clean up. This is exactly the part where you can actually utilize your tank quite well. And we get all the spotting damage, we get basically all the damage right there. And we're able to do quite well in this vehicle. We're just gonna track this E25. And we're just going to track him and finish him off. Right, there we go. That was another decent game in the T-34-2. You can make it work but I still think that in comparison to other medium tanks at tier 8, this vehicle is still underperforming. But it has gotten better with the buffs. It's still not there where it's supposed to be, but it is getting there slowly. We were not shot at this round because we were able to, you know, keep a low profile. That's what you can do with these low profile tanks. And they were not able to hit us or our hull. And our turret was doing its job when it had to. And with the mobility, we were able to fall back if we had to. And if we, you know, didn't want to get into a situation where we had to fight 3 versus 1. So all in all, this tank, I think, it has gotten better, but it's not a tank that I would go for just because, you know, I won't really want to play a cheaper T-44. That's what this T-34-2 is. And I'm really interested to see what the WZ-120 is about and the 121, what these two tanks will deliver later down the road. So I hope you did enjoy this little first look at the revamped T-34-2, and I see you guys on the next video.